Alright everybody, it's our Clow here, and amazing video for you today. I want to talk extensively about this film, The Lawnmower Man, and I'm going to utilize gematria to show you many hidden layers of meaning that I have found within this movie, and we're going to talk about quite a few things just about the general premise of this. So for those of you not familiar with this film, it's a 1992 sci-fi movie. And it's based around the story of Job Smith, who is a developmentally challenged gardener, and one of his friends, Dr. Lawrence Angelo, who is a scientist experimenting with enhancing the human mind through use of psychotropic drugs in conjunction with virtual reality treatment to truly expand and awaken parts of the mind. So it's a very interesting premise. There have been countless movies to talk about virtual reality in different capacities. Obviously, The Matrix is the one that comes at the top of that heap there, but we'll discuss more of this plot line as we progress through this video. Again, there's so very much that I want to discuss in this. I'm going to be moving relatively fast, all right? So let's get right over here to these values and establish a baseline here. So do notice that the Lawnmower Man itself is a 15-letter phrase, and so 15 letters, that is the devil card if we're looking at this through tarot. Now, looking at the TLM, the abbreviation there, we have the numbers 2, 3, 4, which if we mirror and add those, we do get that 666. All right, so right out of the gate there, you can see some very important connections to these very negative forces. So check this out. The director's cut is 144 minutes. Remember, that is a perfect harmonic number, the only one. And in the last video, and again, this is the number I've talked about very extensively, but this being signified as the number of the apocalypse. So with that, let's jump right into the coding here. Notice for the Lawnmower Man, we have the transcendental mystery at the end of time, fascination with death and destruction, reference to Hollywood sorcery, and then we get this date here, July 17th. Now, that's a very interesting date to me for a number of reasons. First of all, it is the 198th day of this year. So 198 is an incredibly huge number. I'm going to ask you to look to the right side of your screen here and see that it is the simple value for the Willis Tower. Now remember, located in Chicago, Illinois, this building has its own zip code, 60606. Now, take a look here. President Trump, the second 9/11, corrupt justice, history repeats. The Master Therian, remember, this is the great beast, references to all things are revealed, the key to the seals, and so much more. This is a very, very important number. So now, something else to keep in mind with 198 is if we're looking at it as an English value, its simple value is 33. And so that does give us references to magic as well as the word amen, which, remember, if we look at it backwards, is the word NEMA, which is the National Emergency Management Association. It's incredibly important. We also have this reference here to Fabian, as in the Fabian Society. So look into that further if you are unfamiliar. Now, look at the ES values on the left for the Lawnmower Man. These are huge numbers over here, but see again, we have our reference to Donald John Trump, and this gets even more compelling because we see up here it also shares coding with Judgment / the Star. Now, do remember back to my Economist video talking about this cover here, in which Judgment and the Star are the two cards that are turned a bit, and so I was telling you that that was indicating a secret reading to be had in between those two. Of course, go back and look at that video because it goes into very extensive depth discussing that. Now notice as well here, you get references to Book of Revelation, the powers that be, and this idea of the masterpiece ion. Again, supremely important. So as I stated very briefly in the intro there, the film actually has next to nothing to do with Stephen King's story, but it instead is based on a screenplay entitled Cyber God. So take a look here, and and you can see all the different cards that we get out of reading into that title. This Jewish value of 551, this is the same as Beyond Magic. Now do remember, this is the title of David Blaine's most recent Magic special that came out, I believe, November 14th last year. In any case, go back, watch those videos, but check it out. Reference to the Path of Teth. This is the serpent. You also have the Illuminati, false flag operation, the illusion, the path of the magician. Again, so much of this can keep coming back here because we're going to see references to nearly all of these cards throughout today's video. Now staying on to Baphomet / the Dragon, as well as Master the Brain, which is what this movie is all about, mind over matter. You see as well reference to Soul Eater and Besta de Apocalypse, which is Portuguese for Beast of Revelation. Very, very interesting. Down below, noticing the references to chaos magic and murder, so big deals there. Now, since they made it a point to include Stephen King in all of this, even though he sued them successfully ultimately for misuse of his name and titles and so forth, I wanted to look at him just a little bit because he does pop up quite a bit. So do notice here, you can see everything from references to the Hadron Collider to demonic messiah. Notice down below references to satanic magus and the phrase born to kill. What I really want you to see too here is the idea that he comes up with Nestle Nescafe, which, remember, was the ad that was played directly after JFK was announced to be dead. And again, NN is 55. We'll talk about those double fives a bit more today. And the Misfits reference, very interesting as well. It could not only be talking about the Marilyn Monroe movie, which we've discussed in the past, but also the Bullet EP from the Misfits, in which JFK's brains are being blown out on the cover. So all very fascinating to think about, but let's keep going here. You can see I have Stephen King's birth date listed out, and if you go through and reduce his numbers, you do get a thelemic 93 from the month and day, but if you do the full reductions for the month, day, and year, you do ultimately get a 33. So do remember, in the Book of Lies, chapter 33 is entitled Baphomet, however you want to pronounce that. But again, masterfully important. That is one of the master, not only thelemic numbers, but Masonic numbers as well. So Stephen King happens to be 69 this year. So of course, that's the forbidden chapter from Book of Lies. This is the title talking about how to suck eggs. And again, the metaphor that serves as, but you can then see as well 6 + 9 giving us 15, another devil card reference. I have here this very interesting bit for you where Stephen King was 16 years, 2 months, and 2 days old when JFK was assassinated. Of course, 16, the Tower card, and 22, the Master Builder card. So very, very interesting to me that he happened to be that very specific age on that day. So now looking into Stephen King's full name here, you do see references to it being 16 letters long. Again, that Tower card reference. But check out the ES values on this. I want you to see they are the same as the Trump Train, as well as Minute Brew Nescafe. Again, this is directly tied back to Nestle Nescafe. So all of that, very important. But do see here, order out of chaos, manifest destiny, murder was the case. We get this number 129, which I have there as Project 5. You'll understand that in just a moment. We also have this reference to the Princess of Cups, and do remember this tarot card is with the deity in the sky, and she is holding the head of recently decapitated individuals. So keep that in mind as we keep going here. But notice as well, you see references to economic meltdown, apocalyptic plans, the fabric of reality, and transformation. Again, supremely important. Now, with that baseline being laid out there, let's jump over here. And I want to start with this right here because it says produced by Gimel Everett, and we have this sun shot going on in the back here. Now, Gimel is very important because this translates to camel, and we've talked extensively about the 42nd chapter in the Book of Lies entitled Dust Devils. And I highly advise you to keep going and look at that, because there are very, very important connections with that, and with the fact that this man is the producer for this very what I'm going to use for a prophetic film. All right, so now jumping back over here, you see Gimel is tied in with ideas such as will of God and demonically possessed. You also have this idea of impeaching entire U.S. Congress. I actually think there's something really weird right now where the entire U.S. Congress is going to be meeting at the White House for something in the next couple of days here. Do notice, though, the ES values are the same as World War III, as well as on the ground. Remember, those were Charles Dickens' final words. Now, notice here that simple value of 141 in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, 141 AF, that's after Ford, was the year that the 9 Years' War began. Now, this is very interesting because going just back up to the Lawnmower Man here, you do see in the ES values we have the 9 Years' War. And of course, seeing again there ideas such as Donald John Trump, Book of Revelation, secrets kept hidden, and those sorts of things. It's very, very compelling to see how this is all compounding in here. But do notice for Gimel's ES values, false prophet, the dark messiah, 21, age of Aquarius, will of Thelema, the egg of the Aeon. You also see here harbinger of death, the devourer, and dark molester. Notice as well here the phrase off with his head, again directly tying us back to this Princess of Cups card. But now let's keep going here. I want you to take a look at this here, and we have this is one of the opening shots from the movie. It says, by the turn of the millennium, a technology known as virtual reality will be in widespread use. It will allow you to enter computer-generated artificial worlds as unlimited as the imagination itself. Its creators foresee millions of positive uses, while others fear it as a new form of mind control. So very, very profound, and this jumps us into virtual space industries, which is the company that Pierce Brosnan's character, Dr. Lawrence Angelo, works for. And of course, this very interesting symbol that they have here, looking like almost like a Celtic cross within a cube. But again, many things to read in on that. But let's jump back over here before we get too ahead of ourselves. So notice here for virtual reality, both words are 7 letters, gives us a nice 77. We can look at V as the 22nd letter, reduce R down to 9. Then we have 22 times 9, which does give us 198 yet again. So keep that number in mind, as it's going to keep coming up throughout this video. Now notice here for the Jewish values on virtual reality, people that are sacrificed to Satan/Baphomet, the goat-headed demon, reference to spiritual wickedness and absolute control and supremacy. Again, this is what people worry about with virtual reality and to what extent it is being utilized. There are many great speakers right now, including David Icke, who talk very extensively about everything about the world we live in today is a virtual illusion. And he actually makes a very, very compelling argument for that. Now, what I want you to see down here, the ES values for virtual reality, I have it as the same as ringing in unison. Now, this is in reference to later on in the film when Job is starting to lose his grip on reality and his sense of self, and he's saying that he's going to become completely embedded within the virtual reality, and he's going to take over the world's network systems through this way. And the announcement of him having done so will be all of the phones in the world ringing in unison. All right, so very interesting stuff there. Again, if we broke that down and looked at in unison on its own, not only do we get a 9-3 mastered thelemic number from IU reductions, but it also has a simple value of 115, which, let's pull it up for you on the right side of your screen here. You can see is the same as Freemasons, Law and Order, Destroyed, Twitter, Blood Work, A New World, the No symbol. all of these massively important things. But so again, I want to try to get all the way to the last one that I inserted here so that you can see how this comes up. Also references to the phrase, it's all a joke. Very telling to me. But so now let's keep moving here. Back to the left side of your screen, the ES values on virtual reality. Humanity enslaved, millions of people in America is destroyed. So as always, I love to break down these pieces here. So virtual reality, what do they mean by virtual? Well, if you look at the Jewish value, you get this reference to Project Monarch. And so again, it's no mistake that in this here, they're telling you that others fear it as this new form of mind control, and then to have all of these monarch references throughout here. Very interesting. Notice as well, true holy angel of death, beyond the paradox, another reference to tweets, psychic energy, and we have Mount Etna eruption. So do remember my first video from this year was focusing extensively on that very mountain. The fact that it is said that that is the place where Typhon is buried underneath. Again, remember, the most powerful deity throughout mythology. But very fascinating to have that coming up here. Notice the ES values. Again, references to divine decree, will of God, badge of a Mason, Jesuits, sorcery, and so forth. All right, so now looking at reality on its own, you do have references to the great architect. The beast is Israel. Now, this is very interesting. There's a lot of talk about the Third World War will come directly out of the Middle East as a result of that very country. Even if we were to break that name down, Israel, I mean, you have reference to 3 ancient deities in that name, and the amount of information on the corruption that takes place within this region is truly stunning and beyond fascinating. But so stay in line here. You see concentration camp, demonic enterprise, manifested Cliffoth. Remember, this is the inverted tree of life, the tree of death. And so to say that's what reality is, that's what we're surrounded by, makes all too much sense. Notice as well, CERN, Large Hadron Collider, the satanic bigots misleading the innocent, and the masters of magic. To me, that is all just stunningly interesting, especially misleading the innocent coming up in reality, because right, that is the reality at hand. Notice the ES values for this. Again, one will comes up. This is one of the mottos for Illinois. Very important. Again, down below, references to the magician, the moon. You have end of the age, economy, the idea of free will. Think about that too. FW, that's 623. If we look at that backwards, it's 326, which is the day that Kennedy was assassinated back when that happened, I believe 63, and many other things with that. Both those words are 4 letters, a nice 44 on top of it. You also see reference to builders and the reference to be prepared. Now, with all of that, let's get back here to Virtual Space Industries. Remember, this is the organization for which Dr. Angelo works, where Job sees himself lose his touch with reality. But we have reference to birth of the Antichrist Horus, the son of Isis. Fascinating. The 7 seals of destruction. Bees are the Jews. I'm going to ask you to remember that for later. That will come back up. We also have Russia bombs Washington, D.C. Again, something to potentially be very worried about, because we have the large-scale terrorist activity, or excuse me, training going on today, simulation in DC, I believe. There's a lot of people worried that that's going to go live. Anyways, look here, you also have We Love Death and Hell. Of course, the irony of that event going live today would be it's the 116th day of the year. Huge number, but in any case, keep moving here. Notice that the ES values for virtual space industries gives us a reference to Center for American Progress. Now, This is a very interesting organization. I don't have the tab pulled up for you, but if you look into them, you can see that they've come under a lot of heat because they are not very willing to disclose who their very large-scale donors are. And so people always want to know about that, especially with these public enterprises, and especially if they're saying that they are functioning to benefit American people. Now, what's so interesting is if you look into Center for American Progress, George Soros is the #1 listed donor for them. So also on that list is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as a whole list of other people who quite obviously do not have American progress at the heart of their intentions in the same way that we think about American progress. Their American progress is getting it closer to their one world order. Our American progress is, right, actually having access to the things that we need: food, shelter, community, so forth. Notice as well here, you have U.S. government and the aliens. Someone is hiding the truth. Destroyer of the dragonfly. Again, keep that in mind. And things are not as they appear. Again, this is tapping at the whole premise of this virtual reality sort of prospect. Now, look here, Project 5. This is the official name for Dr. Angelo's research in this film. And so let's take a look at this in a few different lights here, because this is obviously going to be a centerpiece. So Project 5, if we take P and F, we get 166. Massively important, but keep going. You have the deceptions of Satan / the devil, and just notice throughout this presentation how many times that comes up in here. I mean, it's overwhelming at the end of the day. The ES values on this give us references to Goddess Isis, Hollywood, Holy Ghost, Destroyer, Explosion, which is how this project ultimately ends, the massive explosion taking out all of virtual space industries. You also see Hide the Secret, Demonic Forces, 888, Judgment Day, and Transhuman. Again, at the core of this film, they're integrating humans with technology and creating something completely different. Now, if you look at this a slightly different way, you can say it's Project Main Lab, because again, if we wanted to discount this and just look at the words, we get a whole different reading here. So check this out. With Project Main Lab, we have references to Super Soldier Program, which is what Project 5 is completely centered around. This is stated throughout the film and is why they are testing such aggressive formulas initially when they're working with chimps. Now, again, massively important, but you also see the main underground base, references to Delivering Karma, Apocalyptic Threat, The Divine Plan, The Evil Lord, and Double 5. So again, that 55 supremely important. I'll come back to it in just a second here, but notice the ES values on this. Freemasonry, 69, which is Stephen King's current age, as well as the Forbidden chapter in Book of Lies. You also have Punishment, God is the Devil, Baptism of Fire, I Am the Dark Lord, and yet another reference to global economy. And so again, if you look at these same as values, feel free to ask me in the comments or go watch the previous videos, but there's so much involved with those that I really don't want to get too sidetracked in explaining so much of my previous work. So now let's keep hammering away at this sign though. I want you to notice the numbers on the right side here. 5 is the letter M and 12. So what I see from that, when I reduce M and 12 down, they give us 4, 3. So I get 5, 4, 3. That's so interesting to me, because if I mirror and add that together, that does give me that 888. And so again, we saw the reference to the 888 a little earlier on here. I'll probably just type it in a second so that I can not get too, there it is. In Project 5, we had our 888. Now, notice here, for the English value of a 888, we do have Donald J. Trump, as well as Morning Star, as well as Destruction, the Comet Elenin, Coming Truth, Satanic Wizard, the Path of None. Remember, this is the Path of Death. You also have the reference, it's all in the egg. nuclear weapon and unseal the book. Of course, the fact that it also shares values with David Blaine White is absolutely massive. Remember, David Blaine's birthday was on April 4th, the same day that the World Trade Centers were officially open for business. Very, very interesting stuff. Now, keep going here, though. I want you to see. Let's flip through this. So, Job works with this man, Terry McKean. And I just want to point this out because Terry McKean to me sounds very similar to the name Terence McKenna. And Terence McKenna was one of the leading voices talking about psychedelic experiences as well as just kind of transcendental philosophy in general, connecting with the divine self and being able to look past everything that limits us in this current world. So now, if I had a slightly better shot here, you would see that Terry's number is a 555 number. Again, supremely important. Do note that 74 there. We'll come back to it in a second here. But again, just noticing in the background of Terry, you have this nice kind of Celtic cross reference again, very similar to the Virtual Space Industries logo. In a movie like this, that kind of thing is going to be hidden all throughout the film here. But so keep moving with Terry there. He's been working on this. Job's been working on this Lawnmower Big Red, which of course has this nice V on top of it there. Again, the Marcour horns, however you want to look into that, but I've done a lot of research on that specific letter for you because of its supreme importance. But so notice here at this gas station where they frequent throughout here, we do have this nice 5-5. And you might think that that's just slightly coincidental, which is fair enough, but you also will notice that they make it a point to include over here these nice double V's. And again, so you can see all of these double fives. That's what that is. That's what that's indicating. And again, that is why they absolutely be sure to keep it in the majority of these shots. Now, let's keep going here. I guess let's talk about, before we get to the director there, let's talk a little more about the lawnmower here, since that's such a integral part of all of this. So do notice for Lawnmower, we can get this 129, which I'll expand on in just a moment. But look at this, arrogant spirituality is a contradiction. And I think about this when I see a number of videos out there in which people are talking about being above the illusions that are put forward to us, but they're very mocking, very condescending, very belittling to anybody who doesn't agree 110% with every aspect of what it is that they're saying. And again, a complete contradiction. I cannot watch videos like that. I cannot support channels like that because, again, there are no absolutes. Whatever you understand is only a fraction of what is actually going on, and to say that you have an absolute understanding of it is asinine, to put it very, very politely. But let's keep moving here. You have a reference to genetically engineered hybrid reptilian humans. Now again, I would just redirect you to go check out a David Icke presentation on this, but he actually makes some of the most compelling arguments that I've heard for these sort of beings, looking back through ancient civilizations, and again focusing on something as language and saying that these ideas have existed throughout all cultures. It's simply a matter of what they've been referred to as. And so again, something to think about. But notice here as well this phrase, the plasma TV alters the electromagnetic field. Now, of course, that makes perfect sense that with progressions in television that they would be hurting us more and more with what they're putting out, the different frequencies, the different waves, all of those sorts of ideas. Now check this out, very high frequency. I would think of that as the level that we're on in analyzing this film in this way, looking at a word such as lawnmower and finding that there is such extensive value to be seen in it. Now look here as well, we get the number 120. Now we can look at this as in a number of ways. This is the day of presidential inaugurations, right? January 20th, 120. This is also, as you can see here, the same as Living Legend. It's the same as Illuminati. It's the same as Architect. It's the same as 4-4, True Will, Hidden Master, and Thumbs Up. Now, I hope I still have the picture in here of Job giving the thumbs up when he's going to dress like a cowboy as he's trying to figure out more and more of his style. Do also remember with this number 120, it is the address location for the Equitable building, something that we talked about in the Willis Tower video. And 120 is also the day this year that AFI's The Blood album came out. Again, on the cover of that is a trinity of blood drops. I'll talk about that more later on when we get there. So look here as well, everything is corrupt, and the Bible was changed by Masons. Of course, that's something that's affected by this because everything is in that branch. Now, look here, the ES values, these are all huge references to honeymoon, exit only. Remember 5:15 from E and O, that prophetic number from Dante's Divine Comedy. Now, look here, because Lawnmower does have the same value as the book of Job. Now, granted that the biblical name is missing the E, the fact that it comes up in Lawnmower, which is what our Job Smith utilizes, is far beyond coincidental. Come on now. Look further here. References to Judgment Day, Programmer, Baal Worship, Death of Us All, or Death of All US. You again see references to Demonic Church, the Nine of Wands, which is a reference to the idea that change is the only form of stability. And again, we have a reference to the Tower of Babel, again, the Tower Tarot card. Now, break it down again one step further. Lawn on its own has a Jewish value of 961, the same as psychological coercion, search and destroy, and astrotheology. The ES values are the same as America, Apple, Donald, Inri. It's huge. You also have Korea, Mandela, Resh, Sacred, and Chamber. Now, if we look at Mower on its own, the ES values, there's that 444 and the 74 there. Absolutely huge. This is one of the kind of prime numbers here, because you see Jesus, Lucifer, Muhammad, Masonic, Cross, Jewish, Messiah, the Key, Occult, Killing, the King, Anti-Peace. You have Nuclear and Weapon in here. Also reference to sinfulness, the state of Oregon, which, do remember, O is the 15th letter, and it's a 6-letter word, giving us that 156. Do remember that Crowley tells us very extensively that the number of Our Lady Babylon is 156. Again, look at my Economist cover videos. Also the 33rd state. Again, not by mistake, Oregon is going to be supremely important in moving all of this forward. We also see references to tarot, abominable, and parables. Now, if we're looking at the word lawnmower, it is an anagram for warn me owl, or in any particular order of that. But again, a warning, an owl, all of that very, very massive. So, but keep moving here though. I want you to see Big Red is the name of that lawnmower that he has, with the big V on it there, and you see references to encode, hacker, FBI's, and FBI is an anagram for fib. So with the S on there, it's multiple as in fibs. Now look at the ES values here, 270 and 45. So Trump's our 45th president. I wanted to see what the 270th day of his presidency would be. Turns out it is October 17th, which is going to be the 290th day. So let me see if I have this proper for you on the other side here. Do we have anything with that 290? We do have it as a Jewish value. And so do look at that. Notice that it comes up as reference to Black Bill Gates. And so you see here a reference to October, which is right directly where I'm pulling that. You also see US, bloodlines, alien attacks, dark rifts, is Death Angel, as well as Clone, Hack, HAARP, God's Elite, the Archer, and the phrase that I've cracked the code. Now, all very interesting, but let's keep going here. Again, you can see for the ES, Fox, Gods, Lies, all of it very important. So now let's jump back. Here's the director, And again, very 1984-esque sort of imagery that we're seeing with this here. But so this is the man who says, we don't care about what happens to the test subjects. We need to know, if this serum can be used to create the super soldiers with the super strength that we're looking for. So now this individual goes by one of two names, either referred outwardly as the director, which you can see does have a Jewish value of 444. That is Order of Thelema, Lord of the High Place, Head Mind Control, Took the Mark, a reference here to Golden Gate Bridge Break. Very interesting. That's 7722 or 99. Again, masterfully important number. Notice the ES values for the director. They do give us North Korea and North America, which then of course says that America and Korea have the same values. But notice as well, spiritual, hypnosis, means to an end, and dark deception. Again, arguably we're all under a hypnotic spell right now, and that is why nothing ever seems to change and go the proper way. Now notice here, Mr. Director, this is the other when he's being referred to directly, Jewish value of 441, the Magus. It is absolutely huge, as well as MK Ultra, so mote it be is another Thelemic saying. You have Masonic, Grand Lodge, Grand Architect, Epitome of Deceit, phrase kill and not be seen. You see it's also the same as Lady Gaga and the golden haired one. Remember all the information I've done showing you Gaga's connection to Trump and all of this. You have the plans of God, I am the great one, and satanic megalomaniac. This is just stunning to me. The ES values for Mr. Director, conspiracy, 88, Mount Etna. Again, you see the reference coming up. We have 411, which 411 Elm Street is where Kennedy was assassinated. You have death sentence, magical realism, galaxy wheel, or fortune X. Now, again, if we're looking at these as if they were Thoth tarot cards, this card right here is the fortune card. It is the 10th card. Let's jump back. All right, so keeping all of that in mind, again, tombstone, and also this reference to 11-4, which is the value for DC statehood. Now, I want to pull this up for you. And it looks like this one's going to be pesky. So let's get all the way to the end of this one. All right, so it looks like Old Faithful is the last time that we saw 114 pop up. And so take a look at all of this here. You do see references to Kim Jong-un, North Korea's leader, Holocaust, history, New World, World War, as well as secret earthquake. You have the written out formula of INRI down below there, but I do want to pop it back maybe one or two here, because I want to see if I have this information for you. And it looks a little like it's going to be a little convoluted, so I'll skip that. Down below in the description, I'll put a little more information for you about all of these different... God, I really wish that I had it, but you know what? I'm just going to get lost looking for it. So I'll put that in the description box for you. Very, very interesting. But so in any case, let's keep moving here. So Pierce Brosnan is, right, trying out all of his virtual reality technology, and while he is beta testing it, essentially he's got this little program, Relax. In it, he has three options of floating, flying, or falling. And so you do see with those three F's there, we have that nice 666 hidden again. 21 letters in total. Remember, that is the universe card, although it is the 22nd major trump card or major arcana card, 22nd trump card. 0 is counted as a number, and so the universe card is actually 21. So in any case, here you see reference to King of the Abyss, the Day of Reckoning, and Third Eye / pineal gland. Now all of this very, very interesting when you're thinking about how it is that he's navigating through this atmosphere over here. That is arguably the abyss that he is sitting in, and he's trying to elevate his mind to an area to be able to comprehend and handle it. So notice down below the ES values for this, again, all major. I'm a god in this reality, as well as the book of Revelation. Our number is 11, as well as, again, the serpent bloodline, the occult, witchcraft, and reptilian holocaust. So Brosnan's girlfriend walks in on him there, and she's irritated because, right, he's spending all of his time working on this technology and very little time, working on her, as it were. And so she says, what's next? Fucking. And so, very interestingly, when I first restarted this channel, I had a whole series of information that I never quite brought out to all of you. And so this is actually one of those pieces. And so you'll see the values for fucking up here are very important, because there's references to good night, dollar bill, global dollar, rage enhancer, again, core to Lawnmower Man plot here. But look at all of these very important deities that are listed in the ES values here, as well as the fact that hidden hand comes up. Now, again, there's a lot to be said, so read through that, find what you do in it. But I really need to keep moving here. I want you to see the next thing here. So here we have Job, kind of probably one of the most iconic shots from the movie. Him with Big Red, still developmentally disabled or challenged. In any case, after he's done mowing this lawn, one of the kids comes over, and the kid who's the neighbor of the woman whose lawn he's mowing is son of a domestically abusive father, which is something that comes up again later on here. But so notice here that Job gives the kid a comic, and it's called Nuke Masters. And so it's very important to note that in the director's cut, I was looking through, I didn't actually watch it, but I saw a lot of screenshots from it, and there are several other comics that are brought up, but this is the only one that we get a very clear shot of in the actual theatrical version. So to me, that says that Nuke Masters is very, very important, and it's a completely made up comic book. And so notice here, Nuke Masters is 11 letters long. It does give us reference to Final Trumpet, as well as Aquarius, Blood Money, Beasts of the Earth, Human Alien Contact. And I like this idea of Lonely Girl coming up. Remember, this was one of the first essentially fake YouTube channels to come up, to make you think that she was this real person going through things. But again, this was just a secret operation that they had going on, seeing what people would believe, how vulnerable they are, etc., etc. Do remember, with her story, a lot of people became increasingly suspicious of her when she put up a poster of Aleister Crowley behind her. But look here, though, the ES values for Nuke Masters, there I am. Front row center, okay? And again, this is one of the most important numbers. You can see here by the same as length here, and all of the concepts I've looked into, and how many of them line up here. Again, seeing The Economist, AFI The Blood Album, Lord Roberts, this was the first leader of the Pilgrim Society, Six Hit Vobis, on and on, okay? But notice as well, The Apocalypse, Cornerstone, Global Control, Anuit Coptis, The Universe, Lightworker, okay? Financial Crisis. You can just see here that this is a massively important number. I want you to also consider as well with the word nuke. N is the 14th letter. It's a 4-letter word. There's our 144 again. Now, I will bring this up for you because, again, it is just such a supremely important number. And let's pull it up all the way at the end here so you can see that it is sharing values with Dante's Inferno, 44, Satanic Hexagram, Mark of the Beast, Scarlet Woman, The Sun City, Trauma Room 1. This is where JFK was pronounced dead. Also the same as Alien Invasion, Open Third Eye. Again, thinking back to just a moment ago, we were talking about floating, falling, or flying, and the third eye pineal gland. Again, all of this just right in touch with each other. So Dr. Angelo starts creating an audio journal when he's testing Job, and you see here the first journal entry is May 10th. The film came out 92, so I looked at the 131st day, or found that that was the 131st day of that year. does happen to have the same values as Trump, Pence, as well as the Great Beast, death penalty, and Islamic State. So now let's keep going here, because since Job is our guinea pig, he's very, very important to look at here. So notice here for Job Smith: Eye of Horus, god of the Aquarius age, the tetragrammaton name of Baal, hidden evils, which could also be hidden veils, and you also have a reference to the path of the sun and ultra top secret. Now looking down below here, the ES values, again, massively important: Tree of Life, Russian, Crowley, Spiderweb, Division, God's Will, Graveyard, United Bank, Voice of God. Again, all of this very important, very central to Job's character. He does say that he saw God, he touched God, all of these things when the treatments are pushing the limits of his mind. So again here, let's take a look at Job just on its own, the way it's spelled for the movie. You have reference to FEMA concentration camp, society, satanic cults, hand of fate / the entire globe, Maynard Keenan. Now, I did a whole video talking about Maynard and the very paramount role that I feel he plays in all of this. Again, even if you're looking at more recent pictures of him, he does look very similar to Crowley. So to me, absolutely no coincidence there. Notice as well, we have unclean spirit, Pentagon shooting, and illuminated order. Now the ES values for this do show life, bomb, ram, jihad, cell, agenda, Hera, and all bad. Now I've talked about these in the past, so I'm going to keep moving here. I want you to see this quote from Job once he's starting to get a little more intelligent. He says, "We're not awakening new areas of the brain. We're simply awakening ancient ones. This technology," he's referring to VR, "is simply a route to reach places that conjurers and alchemists once used." Now, it is just such a supremely interesting quote to me here, and let's get caught up here. I'm going to skip all of that. So, when Job is first introduced to the virtual reality, Dr. Angelo utilizes just very simple games and mind-building activities for him. And so this is very similar to how the general public has been introduced to technology in general, and especially when we're looking at video games and virtual reality. It's very lighthearted. It's trying to get us to embrace it, to accept it, to see that it can have all these benefits to us. So Job is acclimated to this in very much the same way as humans are. And at the same time, as we were stating earlier, Dr. Angelo is also using psychotropic drugs to enhance specific regions of Job's brain. But so now, what's so very interesting here, this is the first time that Job gets strapped into the VR to really test what Dr. Angelo's been doing. And so when he's in this seat here, we get all these flashes of lights, these crazy patterns, but what we start to see after a few moments, and this scene actually gets pretty intense, is we're actually bombarded with a barrage of sacred geometry images as well as occult symbols. Now, to me, this is stunningly insane to see in a movie. Again, there are a lot of symbols that come up in this. I was screenshotting as quick as I could here, but was only able to catch just a fraction of these. But I mean, it is absolutely stunning that these are coming up in the mainstream like this. And there was not much information that I could find where other people had looked into these. There are a number of people who noticed this, and somebody actually did a frame by frame showing, I believe they said it was 39 different symbols and images that appear in this little indoctrination piece here. Again, if you invert that number, it is the Master 93. So again, supremely important, but just look at all of these different things. We have our hexagram here, all of this ancient writing. And again, this is all being used to completely warp Job's mind. Look at him. I mean, he's sitting there just having a very difficult time keeping his composure, keeping it all together as all of this is coming across his mind here. But so again, just fascinating stuff. All right, so let me jump back here. Let's finish looking at Job's name and all of this. So do notice Smith, his last name. I've got that pulled up for you, so let's see if we've got 195 hanging out in a simple value here. So do notice that 195 is going to be the same values as True Love's Kiss, Washington 7. So here's this beautiful piece I was looking for earlier with you, with all of this information about Oregon being the 33rd state, the 33rd chapter of Book of Lies, so on and so forth. Please look through all of that. But you will see here that this 195 is the same as Love Trumps Hate. Again, there's us connecting right back to Lady Gaga and Donald Trump again. But you also have 777, Donald Trump blackened military complex, first degree murder, and the solar serpent. So again, all of that just tremendously interesting to me. Again, please read through all of this right here. I was talking very extensively about this worship of, right, Baphomet. He's a goat or an ass. And then you also have this idea that the nation in general is obsessed with ass. And so no mistake in that. Again, those letters ASS all reduced down to 1, so that 111, and of course bearing in mind that that simple value of 111 has an English value of 666. All right, and so again, this connects us back to my Economist cover, looking at the 1988 one, which was discussing how there would essentially be a end of specific currencies in 2018, and that we would then see this leap into world currencies. But again, look at these values down here, see all of the coding that it has in common with no more cash, dollar crash, Lucifer / hell, dark matter, American beast, illusion, so on and so forth. It's a massive number. T Phoenix, this is what's on that 1988 cover. Skull and Bones, Undeniable Proof, Satanic Magus, you name it, all hanging out right in there. All right, so fascinating set of numbers there. Check out for the Jewish value here, reference to bloodbath, coiled snake. These ES values here, huge, because you see false flag, that WWW, which is a 555, reference to Pandora. Now, interesting, because thinking about this whole virtual reality world that they're living in, and just blurring the lines there in the movie Avatar, I do believe the planet that they're on is named Pandora. But so again, a movie centering around this idea of vicariously experiencing something through some sort of digital means. All right, so very, very interesting. Notice as well the law, one eye, black hole, and eclipse. I also want to note here, it's very important that lemonade comes up, because we do see in this, and there's this nice thumbs up I was talking about earlier, but so we do see in this the lemonade when Job is starting to become sexualized through his just developing brain. And so this woman whose lawn he's always mowing, she seduces him, of course, starting out with this lemonade scene. But again, look into all of this. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, let's do one last thing here for Lawnmower Man. Just to end all of this out here, I want you to see a reference to January 11, again, 111, that 111, look at the right side of your screen. But I also want you to see here we have a reference for the date October 26. Now this is very interesting, because that's going to be the 299th day of the year with 66 days remaining. Now 2 times 99 gives us 198. Just like how we started this video talking about the 198s that were popping up with the Willis Towers. Let me get all the way back here so you can have a little reminder there. But again, all of that popping right up there. Again, remembering that 6 times 6 is 36, and the 36 triangular number is 666. All right, so very, very important here. I want you to see, I can't remember, let's see if I can get a little extra piece of this in here for you. So one of the reasons I found 198 so interesting when I was first looking at it is because if we invert that number as 891, that is the number of days in between the assassination of JFK and the founding of the Church of Satan. And so to me, that is right, just obviously very, very, very interesting. And so again, you can see this in a number of different ways. If we look at the Jewish values here for 891, you can see I am the devil. Lord of Destruction, Tarot Trumps, the Serpent at the Door, and Brother of the Freemasons. And so again, all of this just always supremely interesting to me to see how it keeps lining up. But so again, October 26th, another day to absolutely keep your eye on. You have reference to all serpents deserve an eternal torment, unfortunate series of events, and if I have to kill them, I am killing their souls too. It's very deep. Notice the ES values here. Same as the Big Book of Hell. Number 36, the Path of Teth. Again, this is the Lust card. You have the All-Seeing Eye. It's reference to 124, and remember that is the coding for Lawnmower. You have All Shall Perish, Masonic imagery, Veiled Allegory, Ticking Time Bomb, Scud missiles, and this idea of Full Metal Jacket. All right, so all of that stunning to me. Again, you can see a couple more notes that I've added for you at the end here. I do want you to see a little earlier on here, we had this deep blue art come up, deep blue old art. And if you were to look into that, you see it's 15 letters. Very interesting, but the ES values are the Bullet Catch, Satan / the Devil, Vision of Pan, and the Holy Grail. Do remember the Bullet Catch is what David Blaine's Beyond Magic is kind of all about. That's his central piece there. Do remember for Cyber God, the screenplay for what this is based on, Beyond Magic, is absolutely something that shares that coding there. So again, very interesting. You can see here, deep in blue are both 4 letters, old art, both 3. 44, 33, Adam, you got a nice 77 there. Again, if you want to take this one step further, you can look at long, wide, high, deep. They're all 4 letters. And you can see how that coding all lines up there. But so with all of that out of the way now, that is, I believe, all of the information that I wanted to show you. So I'll just go through a couple more screenshots here. So you can, again, just see this very Masonic or occult imagery, however you want to process it. But so do notice here, Job increasing his knowledge. He's got the nice one eye covered with this here. Looking forward again at the checkerboard patterns, the duality, all of these ideas, this nice O here, the singularity, the silence, right? All of these concepts. But so keep going here, and throughout the movie, Job essentially, as he's becoming more and more awakened in his mind, he's developing more abilities, he's able to hear people's thoughts, and so this is a lot for him to handle, leading him to many sorts of breakdowns all throughout here, again, because they're not keeping Job's best interests at heart here. And so his brain absolutely starts to just get fried. This is when he says, right, I saw God, I touched God, all of these things. And unbeknownst to Dr. Angelo, this is when the original Project 5 serum is reintegrated back into Job's regiment. And again, this is what makes him so highly aggressive and dangerous. So as he's going through all of this here, right, as he's becoming more intelligent, more just functional overall, he starts to lose his grip with reality. I think this is so weird. I do not understand how there are 2 different toothbrush silhouettes right here when there's obviously only one toothbrush right here. Anyways, it's very interesting side note there. But so I don't know why it's zoomed in on this one. Let's zoom out. And so in any case here, as Job is becoming more advanced, he's becoming more and more bored with the world around him and the limitations that he's experiencing in his human self. And so what does he do? He takes the woman who offered him the lemonade and takes her to VSI and says, this is going to be great. Let's go through all of this. And so they then engage in what is, I believe, cinema's first completely computer-generated sex scene, which is very disturbing. You will notice that his eyes have a very unnerving orange glow to them throughout this here. They morph into the dragonfly. Again, the symbolism here is not lost on me, as this is, right, a water creature having everything to do with understanding that there are 2 sides, 2 things, 2 sides of meaning. nothing is straightforward, and that if one simply goes beneath the surface, that they go into an entirely different world. I know there's much more symbolism to be spoken of on that, but you can easily research that for yourself. The dragonfly is what these two become as they are, right, forming into each other. You've then got this very awkward primal ooze thing, and so Job kind of starts losing it here, and this is where we get a really clear hail to the more typical torture methods that are associated with MK Ultra, as Job then morphs into this monster. And the woman that he's with, she's freaking out. She's clearly upset and just doesn't want this to happen. And Job just keeps breaking her mind. He's just scaring the shit out of her, all of these things. And so this does result in her having a complete psychological break. Ruins her from that point onward. She's unable to function. She's just a bundle of nerves and a wreck. But again, because Job breaks her mind while she's in that matrix with him. And so again, all throughout here, this is a scene where they're talking about the corruption. Job, again, essentially becoming all evil here. He then goes on this killing spree in which he is delivering karma. You remember that from earlier. And, right, getting his revenge on people who have caused him grief in the past. So he used to work for this priest, and he was very abusive towards him, both mentally and physically. So Job sets him on fire. This man from the gas station, again, very mean to him. And so what does Job do? He gets into his head and destroys him. You have the lawnmower man in this man's head. He doesn't actually kill him, but he says that the lawnmower man will forever be in his mind and will keep him detached from reality. So he completely removes him from the equation. The little boy who lives next door to the woman who he's with, this is the dad here. Remember I was saying earlier that he was an abusive man, so he's watching WWF. So we've got the clear hail to that in here. In any case, Job comes through, makes sure he dies. We've just got all these scenes towards the end here with Job just really blowing everybody's mind, showing the potential that he has to distort reality and to do what he wants in essence. And so notice here, Job is going to VSI at the very end of the movie. This bee that's in the Terry's car here, he uses this as inspiration. He then brings this bee behind him. Remember earlier we saw this whole the bees are the Jews thing. And so it's interesting that these bees are the ones who are able to get past all of the soldiers that are guarding VSI when they're coming up onto it here. All right, so just a few more images here. Job essentially gets to do what he wants, integrates himself into just a completely electronic being, leaves his physical body completely in doing so. Okay, you can see all this symbolism here. So he's inside now. He's trapped inside of a terminal, and he has to get out. In order to get out, he has to crack a code. And so in any case, Dr. Angelo goes in there with him and is trying to convince him otherwise, that this is not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to destroy all of this. And so of course Job makes him a martyr. Again, we get all sorts of very just dark imagery throughout here, an inversion of the cross as he's beaming at him. And of course, we couldn't get through this movie without a beautiful 4-4 for us there. If we flip that around, we can see it as ho-ho, Santa Claus reference, or even as I'm not going to go into it too much further than that. But very interesting stuff there. In any case, it all finally comes down. This is one of the last scenes in here when the phones are all ringing, because Job does escape, and all of the phones ringing in unison is something that starts to happen. But so in any case here, you'll notice this time, and it could be 4:31, it could be 4:32. I don't remember if I had anything on those for you, but so we can just pull them up here very quickly. And so you can see here, if we were looking at 431, the Jewish value here comes up as the same as let the man march. You have changes in order, sacrifice of children, the demon of anger, Lucifer / Hades, dark moon / Lilith, as well as Satanist and real Cliffoth. So again, it's a very interesting number right there. And if we look at it as 40, or excuse me, 432 instead. This is just as interesting, frankly, because we have references to bullet, world, money, Bitcoin, accurate, Judith. Remember, this is the song from Perfect Circle's debut album that was very, very telling. A reference to 7G, again 77. And look at this, reborn, which is exactly what Job was in that moment. You also see reference to Alway. This is who gave Crowley the inspiration for Thelema. References to despair. Again, if we take 432 and invert and add it, do get a 666 with that. So I'm leaning towards that's the one that it's really supposed to be. Notice 432 as well is the same as Gunsmoke. This is huge. You have references to Reprogrammed, the Beast Mark, Pagan Cult, the Pale Horse, all shall perish, times 3. If we do 432 times 3, gives us 1296, which is the same as 500, 10, and 5. Do remember that that is the reference to Dante's Divine Comedy, the number that is given from the apocalyptic angel. When you see this number, the end will be upon you, all those sorts of things. All right, so let's just chase it all the way out here so that we can take a look. And so you will see for 1296 here coming up as CERN will let in aliens, begin apocalypse event, the Aeon of Adjustment, the alien demon deception, the demon queen Lilith, the day of the Baphomets. And ironically as well, there you have 2017. So very stunning, very interesting to say the least. And so with that, that is where I'm going to cut this video. I really hope that you find this this information interesting and useful in some way. Crazy world that we're living in. I really want to do some sort of open mic thing again here, so that I can be a little more laid back and talk about these things, expand on them. But in the videos, I always just want to cruise through the information as quickly as I can, because again, there's so much to cover, and even when I'm covering all of that, there's so much that I'm leaving out. So thank you so much for everybody who takes the time to watch these videos, who contemplates this information, and who sees what I see, because it is getting closer and closer. And the world that we live in is all the indication that you really need. But if you're also willing to put together the clues that are, again, just lying all around us here. Why is Trump only put in a handful of people into his cabinet when we're coming up on this first 100 days here, and so much emphasis put on it, and all of these things. I mean, again, we're all just waiting for something to go wrong. In any case, thank you so much again for watching, and please be well.